Now? Yeah, woohoo! Hello. Hi, I'm Julie. Wow, so bright light when you're standing up here. I'm not at my best, but luckily I got alcohol now, so I will hopefully feel better throughout the panel. So yeah, we have a slide up. Woohoo! Thank you, guys. There was a little bit of panic just before, because I'm, of course, fairly unprepared as always. So we have a fight club, and we have some new members today, but Sarah and I have had a fight club for a while, together with Chet, who's sitting down there. But Sarah beat up Chet yesterday, so now he's a bit injured, so he doesn't want to be on stage with us. Hi, Chet. Chet, everyone. Just have your hand up so people can see you. So I'm part of the VRUnicorns. We've made a game called Solver Tennis. I'm working on a game called Ski Jump and one called Archery. And we're doing room scale games, so we're naturally working on the Vive, because that's where you can move around and move freely. And today our panel will be me, and it's going to be Sarah. Sarah? Yeah, who's doing Lucid trips. Sarah also has a beer. It's great. It's kind of how we roll. And then Samuli? Maybe? Yeah, excellent. Yes, just sit down. Samuli is from Mindfield, but also a game jammer that I've known for many years. And then there's Bjorn. Coming out? Yes? Say something? You guys should say. Do you want to say your full names?
No, that's okay.
Okay, Sarah, Samuli, Bjorn. That's what I get. You can find us here. Like, I made this very, very, very sort of nice slide. So a little story about myself, how I started doing VR. I stole a DK1 from the Unity office in Copenhagen, because they had two very early on. They were locked up. But since I'm a game jammer, I would take one once in a while and promise to return it and bring it to a lot of game jams. I don't know how many game jammers are in here, but basically what it means is just you meet up over a weekend, a few days, you make games together with people you may know, may never have met, and you usually make some really fucking crazy shit. Everyone wanted to start working in VR, so yet again, I stole this DK1 and forgot to return it. And then I promised some friends of mine in Poland that I would show up with a virtual reality game at one of their conferences. And then I later got in trouble for actually stealing this DK1. So at one point, so this is some 3 years ago, and then at one point I go to a GDC and I talk with a guy from Valve back then, and Valve was like already helping out some people and like advising on like how to sort of get around and like making games for virtual reality, but like they were not sort of planning on making any hardware themselves, they said. So I run into this guy Chet over here, who would, we would once in a while meet up at conferences, and he would give me feedback on the game I was working on a DK2 on a Mac with a gamepad. It was horrible, but that was all we had back then. And then once I got invited into to Valve's office and was shown this room full of like these tags up on the wall. I assume some of you have seen photos from that room, and you could actually walk around full room scale inside this room in VR, but it was not interactive, and I really wanted to wanted to try something interactive, so I snuck out of that room, and then I snuck into another room, and I saw some people on the floor with some random, looked like controller thing, and they looked up at me and they say, "Why are you here? You're not allowed to be here." I'm like, "Ooh," and then I ran out again. I tend to do stuff like that. But I was like, hey, I think these Valve people are up to something. But they were like, denies, we're not up to something. We're just experimenting just like every other sort of game developer is in this space, and this is some years ago. And then fortunately, there was an announcement at one point down from a conference in Barcelona that there was this new thing coming out, and it was called the HTC Vive, and where you could actually develop VR content for full room scale. So this was a dream coming true to me, because I was really tired of having to have like a gamepad in the game, and also I'm very prone to motion sickness, so it means that like most VR content that is not room scale is completely puke simulating to me. Like I just can't play it. And unfortunately, we got access to a Vive very early on, which was amazing, but also meant I kind of had to like scrape the entire game I'd worked on for what, at that point, 2 years or 2.5 years, and try to develop something for room scale. And the thing was, I was working on a game that was like really sort of dark, horror, and like you had to be in like this world of mystery and whatnot. And when you had like full room scale and like tracked controllers, you just want to hit things. Like, you just want to move around and spank and slam and all of that. So we realized how fun it was both to make and to play and to watch. Like, we had games where you were like sliding across the floor in VR and like jumping up. And one of them we demoed in Samuli's office in Helsinki. We used a cardboard box as a buffer against the wall because you were literally just like sliding across the wall. We're probably never going to ship that game. But just moving around in the entire space. And it also meant that we ended up working on some games that are very sort of active. You hurt yourself a lot, slamming controllers into the wall, the window, you throw them. And like the reason we ended up doing that was that we had so many friends coming by our office, also game jammers, and we just jam up on some things together. And then we realized, okay, as I said before, this is fun to make, it's fun to play, and it's really entertaining to watch. And since like most sort of high-end VR right now comes at a certain price point, I thought to myself at one point, okay, it's probably not going to be everyone like who has this in the very beginning. It's probably going to be like it was with the consoles back in the days, where it was like one kid on the block who had it, and then everyone would go play there. And also we can see like most of the people who are buying, for instance, the Vive early, like the people who are playing our games is mostly a grown-up, and then they let their entire family play, and they're asking for like local leaderboards and whatnot, because it's a very social experience. And like for me, that made it kind of a no-brainer to make something that was very entertaining to observe, and also very entertaining to demo when we travel around at events and go places where we could actually demonstrate what we're working on. And like my whole point of this is that we had not like, there was not a solid game design plan or development production plan, whatnot. Like we just made things that we thought was very crazy, very funny to play, and like we had a crazy idea, we would just push it even further. I made some like completely reckless sort of decisions on the way, but we're still around, so that's kind of good, I guess. And I just, like, this panel that we have today is not so much about the Fight Club. That was like how a lot of things started. We had a Fight Club, and then we did VR, and then with VR Fight Club, we talk about it a lot. We actually talk more about it than we fight. But like, the important thing is that we're kind of all in this together. And we meet up at a lot of events, and we demonstrate our games at a lot of events. And that's kind of what the panel of today is about, like how we actually do this. So I will like to actually sit down, and I'll let Sarah tell for a second what she's up to.
Yeah, for the love of VR, huh?
Yes.
That was an amazing introduction. Thanks, Julie. I love that story. I love also like how you said in the last panel we were, like at Shyla Games last year, that Chat even played your games with eyes open at GDC. Wow.
Yeah, that was such a compliment.
That's a good trick, right?
Yeah,
for the early days of VR, just close your eyes and you won't get sick. Yeah, well, sorry. I'm doing Lucid Trips. It's a pretty trippy VR game. We also started with the DK1, but we used these Razer Hydra things because we also hated gamepads from the beginning. I couldn't do it, like I could puke immediately. So that wasn't an option. But yeah, I'm still developing that game, so I got kind of stuck in there. It's a dream world, and I love this game. I always like when I start playing it, I get stuck in there. Like also Chat told me before, like get out of there, let other people play your game. Yeah, it's always like that.
That's a problem when you make good games. They're so fun to play.
Yeah, I'm always getting stuck in that dream world. But yeah, I'm also doing VR shaman stuff. Like I'm a VR shaman who puts people in VR for long-time experiences. I did that together this January with Thorsten from a Maze festival in Berlin, which is, by the way, a super amazing festival. Yeah, so I put him in VR for 48 hours, and he trusted me, what Chat can't believe. I just have to talk to you about, like, yeah, just come on stage.
You beat him up yesterday. He doesn't want to come on stage.
Oh man, he's scared of me, I know. Yeah, but still, I put him in VR for 48 hours through like different experiences, and I took care like of everything he does in the real world, like for example, eating, peeing, whatever. And also I know the tech stuff and the experiences, so I know how to guide him around there. So that's also what I do. I kind of like put people into long-term VR experiences to try to make them live in their Vive. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, the beginning of my VR story is very similar to actually Julie's. I took our school's DK1 Oculus originally and started prototyping lots of stuff until it broke down. And then I took the second one from the school and continued. But at some point, I had made something like 8 VR demos or something, and I got hired by a Finnish company called Mindfield Games, where we recently released, Steam released a game called Pollen. And currently we are doing a Vive support for hand controls for the Pollen, because Pollen was a VR game that was started like a Ragnarok VR, which was Julie's original game. But unlike Julie, we didn't scrap it. We wanted to finish it and actually publish it. And for the future games, we are making them like only for VR and really like looking into VR.
Yeah, because Poland is a game that you can easily just play on a like normal screen.
Yeah, you can play it with a keyboard and mouse. You can play it with a gamepad. But the game is all about exploration. So hand controls are really fun. So we don't want to drop them, but we are just adding them as a post-launch free update for everyone.
Nice.
Yeah, my VR journey really started seriously this year, the beginning of this year. So we got together with Emberlight. We're four members of Emberlight, and we started talking, really. We had ideas about games, and we started talking about next games and if we should do games. And VR wasn't like what we went to first. We just kind of drifted into there, because that's where the excitement in the group was. So my VR journey was, I always loved VR, but I've always loved developing regular games. So I've always done regular 2D games. And then as we got together, we just started jamming VR, and here I am. It's not been easy. Like, we had a lot of assumptions going into VR, and a lot of them were wrong. And now we found the right track, it feels like. So it's very, very exciting to be here. It's my first VR conference as well, so I love the energy, and I just love the community here, so it's really good.
I think so as you said, like, first of all, you kind of drifted into VR because like that was where the enthusiasm was, and then secondly, like, you have all these assumptions where you think, okay, this is going to be great, this is going to feel great in VR, but you can't say before you actually create it, before you jam it together, prototype it, and then you test it on yourself and you test it on other people, and then you kind of see, okay, this works. Because VR is still so fresh and new, like this generation of VR, and especially like with room scale and whatnot, is that it's very hard for people to think up like what content will actually work. And I think that's where like why VR, like right now, the community has up until recently mainly been prototypers and game jammers like us, who are just quick at jamming something up. Like, don't worry about how it looks, like focus on the core mechanic and just get it together and then see, okay, does this feel right? And we had a discussion yesterday about like, when do you know whether like you can get the game feel? And I think our discussion ended up with like, well, when you have the right mechanic and you can see, okay, this makes sense, then that comes natural. But it's very hard to predict.
Yeah, and that's what we found out through the hard way, the real hard way. Like, we're gonna make this big game and it's gonna be awesome, and we had this huge plan in our head, and we started making it, and like, no, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, and this doesn't work, and we kept asking questions, and those questions led us to, like, we have to do this now, we have to do it quick, we have to do it rough, we have to do it fast, and just feel it out, and that's what we found 3 weeks ago. Like when we found out, like, we need to do something quick, and we got massive response immediately, and so it's really like.
I think also the Vive, like when the Vive came out, and also Unity, it's making it so easy to prototype something so quickly, because when I think back on the days like when we were on the DK1 with the Razer Hydra, or when we were with the DK2 and the PlayStation Move controller, we had to carry around all that shit. When I came up to you, to Shyla Games, to Copenhagen, I had this huge suitcase just with my PlayStation, with the Move controllers, with like all that computer stuff, like a really huge computer. It was insane.
Also just like, so I also worked with Move controllers in DK1 initially, but like there were always like problems connecting all these different pieces of hardware together, so you ended up spending most of your time solving hardware problems that actually like showing or making your game. And that, like with the Vive, we have a full complete system, which means that everything works together. Like, so at least like on Unity, we use Steam VR, right, which just makes it so easy to map everything together and just works out of the box. Like, anyone right now can make a VR game. It's not hard. I mean, a good VR game, sometimes it happens by luck, sometimes it happens through hard work, but the fact is anyone can do it. Like,
I have a really good example of this. I was advisor for the VR Jam that happened like early this week, and there was like one team who has never done video games and has never done any VR, and they had 24 hours, and they made a VR video game. it's so simple today.
Yeah. Yeah, even actually my nephews who are in their teens, they have also been making VR games because I just like give them the computer and then they go nuts. And it's not that they know Unity well or anything, but it's so easy now. It also means that there's so much content coming out, and I think one of my other points here, like it has been sort of, at least from sort of the community I'm in, which is indie developers, game jammers, students, some industry veterans so that like choose to leave their big well-paid jobs and go crazy game jamming like the rest of us. And that community has really been driving it. Like it's the grassroots, but now more and more bigger companies with like a lot of funding, they're getting into it. But what I still see is that as soon as you're kind of stuck in a bigger company that has like certain routines, certain ways of doing things, like you can't afford to take much risk, right? Also salaries is like a big burn. Like if you spend half a year in a company where people get grown-up salaries and try to make content, like if you fail, like can you afford that risk? Whereas if you keep your team small, agile, and make sure that, okay, everyone is in this together and you just run fast and then light, then you can actually make something. And then like I've taken some big beatings financially with like this game called Ragnarok VR that I spent like all my savings on, and I had to take out a loan when we pivoted and went to go crazy sports games last year around November. But I could see like this was what I wanted to do. Like I wanted to make sure that we had some content out very early so we could kind of establish ourselves as a developer name, because like next year, I think the VR scene is going to be flooded with so much content. There's already so much content out, but you have to be early. And like one of my points is also like you have to show the world what you're doing. Yeah. Like NDAs don't work in this space. Like it makes absolutely no sense. When people they contact me about, I have an idea and maybe you guys can do it for us, and then we just come up with ideas, but you first have to sign an NDA. First of all, I don't work on other people's IP. I don't care about other people's IP. Like for me personally, I work on what I think is funny. I care about your IP, but I'm not going to work on it. I'm going to work on my own IP because that's where my passion is. Like that's why I'm full-blooded into this. Second of all, like if your idea is so great that you need me to sign an NDA, it's probably never going to be like anything. Because like if you can't share, if you can't show the world what you're working on, then what's the fucking point?
Yeah, totally.
We moved our offices downtown and where we live, just so an open office policy, and even like having a disclosure agreement instead of a non-disclosure agreement. So they
good. If you come in and try our shed, you need to talk about it.
That's awesome. Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. That's how we could keep on developing our game, because in the beginning what we did was like crazy. We just like jumped off, flew away, like did loopings, did everything. Like people, when we showed it first to people, like they were nearly before puking. So it was really, really bad for people what we did. But we just noticed it when we showed it to people. So you have to show it, get people tested. That's what I still like do.
Yeah,
I'm
like
always like
testing is really important. But for us, like in Finland, we were the biggest VR company, so everyone came to us and asked about demo VR, show us VR, what about VR? So what we ended up doing in Finland, we actually made a Finnish virtual reality association and got funding from the government. And now we are like a couple of guys from our company with a couple of indies. They formed together this organization which is non-profit, where they provide education for new people who want to come into VR, and they even provide desks and computers and equipment for teams if they can pitch an idea.
That's amazing.
So that's how we solve the problem, because we don't have the time to show it to everyone.
No.
So we had the knowledge to share it, and now we have this whole community that is sharing it like forward.
That's the thing. Back to sharing is caring, right? And also, like in the very beginning, there weren't that many kits out there, right? We were the only ones, as far as I know, who had it in Copenhagen. We were the only ones who were.
Yeah, I remember when we get the first HTC Vive kit, and then people heard that we have it.
Can I come by?
And then we got a lot of interesting
and actually,
calls.
like we moved our office like sort of a corner of the building, because we were like literally whenever people saw we had a setup, like we couldn't get to actually work on it because people wanted to play. But we had people traveling from Germany to our offices just to be able to work on their own games, because like this was very early on. But it was amazing, and also like that the thing is, like, first off, you have an open development, right? And secondly, like, you share knowledge. And also, like, when we were discussing game mechanics yesterday, like, I gave you a few pointers, so you had some questions, and I said, well, I know these guys, they solved it in that way, and, like, just, like, that's fine. Like, it's fine to do the same. Like, we don't all have to invent, whether it's new locomotion methods, whether it's new ways of doing UI and VR or whatnot, because we should help out each other. Yeah. Like, the thing is, if we do bad games, then, like, if we don't, like us as content creators, if we make bad games, then people will play bad games in VR and say, oh, VR game is never going to be big or whatnot, and they're not going to play other people's games. Whereas if we create good content, like here, very early on, like the Vive only launched half a year ago, like if we create good content, then people want more. And then they go to events where they can try a Vive and they try good experiences, good content, and then they want to go home and buy their own, and then they're going to buy more people's games, right? So it's all about growing this thing together, and I think that's where, like, the sort of closed door, I never understood it, because we're in this together. I know people compete, it's fine. Like, we all compete one way or the other, but remember, it's a global market. Like, and the worst thing you can do is compete with someone in your own city. That's just, like, we're so few. Like, I'm from Copenhagen. The game industry there is still very, very small, right? We all help out each other. Like, and we've been fortunate to have quite a few kids, so we can share it with a lot of the students who are there, because, like, the students are the ones coming up with the most amazing ideas, because you have nothing on stake, right? And when you don't have anything on stake, you can just go crazy, and that's where the good ideas are. If you're running a 20 or 100 people big company, it's very hard to, like, just burn cash on something crazy.
Yeah, a good example of that, we had this VR/mobile event in Finland a couple of weeks ago. And there was a VR pitching competition, and it was a student team that won the competition, because they have the freedom and the creativity to do something crazy that someone else can't.
Yes, exactly. The first time we met each other was because I saw your game. It was on a dance pad.
Yes.
With 2 guitars. It was a local multiplayer game, and I was doing a talk in Finland at the assembly about game jamming, and I walked around in the assembly and I saw you playing that, and I need you to come on stage during my talk. Sure. Great.
Yeah, now you are grabbing me to, like, every talk where you are.
I see you. You're coming with me.
Yeah, but that's like the game jamming is like a really important part of, like, my life and all of our lives. So I've been enrolled in this Twitter challenge called 1 Game a Month. Been doing that for 4 years without missing a month, and that's adds up to like 20 to 30 VR demos and experiences. Yeah. So prototyping is really important, and that's how you get to, like, people.
Your kitchen is awesome still. Like, all my VR nauts, like, who were in these trips, they're always chilling out in your kitchen.
Yeah,
like,
the kitchen thing is actually really important. Cool. There was like a one hackathon in Finland where we made this like a virtual interior design software where you could, like, change walls and stuff and, like, decorate your kitchen.
It was amazing.
That's
really
amazing.
Yeah.
The other guys from the team, like, I was one of the 3 guys. They actually made their own company. Yeah. They are now working in the Finnish Virtual Reality Association space, and they are actually profitable. Nice. They are getting gigs done to
this was only in November last year, as far as I remember.
So they start up the company right after that hackathon.
We see that a lot, game jams, hackathons, that people, they form a team, they make some content together, and then they decide to form a company, and then it takes off. Like,
what makes it really crazy is they are actually profitable. They are making money in VR. Already.
At this point.
Yeah, at this point.
Not like us.
We're just spending cash traveling the world.
Yeah.
But like, what especially, like, for Sarah and I, like, the travels we've done to different events. So we don't work together. We, like, work 2 different game teams, but we've been very fortunate to go to a lot of the same events, and that has made us really good friends. We're always spooning. But we have very much seen the benefits of just showing our games, like, everywhere all the time. So one thing is, like, you're building up, of course, like, the whole press side of things, like, all the attention, like, people get to know your games, you get all the user feedback very early on. We, like, our teams, we both believe very much in play testing everything all the time, because, like, you can easily get caught up in something that, like, might work for you but won't work for the mass majority. And you have to kill those darlings once in a while, right? Like, you might be completely obsessed with this one thing in your game, and you can just see, like, it's never going to work out because you're playtesting it. And, like, I think it's very important that you don't make yourself the judge of, like, all decisions on the game. Because in VR, like, it is very early. It is super early, and, like, all the design rules that works in normal games, like, I don't have a formal game development background. I have a business degree and a law degree. So, like, I just, like, go crazy with ideas because I'm not constrained in like any kind of mindset. And I also think like that's where VR really has like fortunate space right now in content creation and development, is that VR is attracting so many people from other areas. So they're not like caught up in specific design rules or specific ways of doing things. And I think that's also what really attracted me to VR. Because like I was working in normal games before and I would always do weird shit. And then suddenly there was VR and I'm like, I can do weird shit and get away with it.
Yeah, that was the same for me. I was actually a designer. Like I did always like communication design. I did 3D art. I built it like worlds like way before VR, like way before the DK1. I built worlds and it was like super amazing to watch them on the 2D screen. But then there was VR and immediately I could just jump into that world which I was building, like which I could only see on a 2D screen. And then at this moment it was just like I put on the goggles and I'm in there. That was just what blew my mind. It's like totally different, and it's just like I also didn't have a game design background, but I think it's also not like all the game design rules. You cannot like apply them all to VR. It's just not happening because VR is so real. It's much more like the real world than like in a game or on a 2D screen. It's like what works in the real world also works in VR somehow. Also, my game is like super far away from the real world, but still, it's like if you walk around, I always say like when I talk to people like walking around, I always use my hands because it's so easy to walk with your hands. Also, people in wheelchairs can walk with their hands. It's just like you can do so much crazy stuff which you can do nowhere else. Like, yeah.
We had a mentality shift in our company. What shifted was we stopped treating it as a game and start treating it as play. And that's really like something that was very powerful, like playing the game. No, just play, not playing. Like,
yeah, like theater.
But also like your background is more sort of like AAA, big development,
right,
whatnot, whereas like our background's like game jamming and crazy projects, right? So you come from like the big sort of, AAA, corporate, whatnot, and then have to go into crazy land with VR.
Yeah, no, and most fights we have at office, which we do have, it's around the whole like, I see it clearly how it should be.
No.
And it's like, yeah, okay.
But have you tried it?
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of that, like, I have a vision, but it doesn't work when I play with it.
No.
Try it out.
Yeah,
always try it out. Just like prototype it very roughly and then try it out. We are also setting up this community space in Berlin. I mean, there are a few community spaces already, like shared spaces, VR-based. Like there's happening one in Amsterdam, and also Berlin will get one. So it's really important to hold this whole community together, and then just to like share, test out, just like get the neighbors over. Like, hey, can you try this? That's really cool. Like.
Yeah, and one really
Sharing
important thing is,
hardware.
remember, there's no like silver bullet to any of this. So people have really different methods of locomotion and really different things that they like to do in our game. So because we have a really traditional game with pollen, we just provide options for people. Because we know that some people can handle this, some people can't handle this. So we just give the people the power to figure out what do they like the best.
And I think that's one of the most important things in virtual reality, because as Sarah is saying, like it feels real. And whenever you're constraining someone in VR, it feels unreal too. Like you lose a little bit of immersion, and we can talk about immersion, puke simulation, whatnot. But what I find very important whenever working on any of our games is that we do not break the illusion. Like VR, virtual reality is tricking the brain. And whether it's to locomotion and making sure that people don't puke, like we found out in the ski jump, and it was literally a last-minute decision before Gamescom, and I was panicking because the build wasn't really working like I wanted it to, and I'd been sick and whatnot, so I got back in on the game and looked at one of my coders in the team, and I said, I need ski sticks, because ski sticks is going to save this game. And he said, how do you want the ski sticks, Julia? I said, I want it to look really, really fucking stupid when we're playing it on the Twitch stage, because we're going to live stream the game. And he's like, okay, so what do you mean with stupid? I said, people need to like have their arms out here and swing them all the way back. And he's like, oh, so you want the delta like this? Yes, perfect, you read my mind. And then a side effect of that was that no one got motion sick. We're skiing fast downhill. Like that is puke simulation in the real world, right? So but the thing is, since we have the ski sticks, people were causing that motion themselves. And as long as we don't let them, we don't have the steep slope for too long time, like the brain still believes that you are actually on skis, and this is fine. This is not just like your body moving without moving. And we figure out those things by accident, and I was like quite surprised. Like, wow, I made a choice that I hadn't even thought through, but apparently it worked on other issues as well. So I'm like, okay, great, now we have ski sticks.
Also, what helped a lot by ski jump is that you have this flat, white surface, and it didn't have any texture at all, so you couldn't really see the speed. That helped so much, because you were just going down, but you didn't really see anything that was passing
Sarah has
by.
been showing ski jump for like quite some time.
I love that game.
Yeah, like
I'm really good at it. I'm a master. When it still had high scores, I always hit the high scores.
We have new high scores. And now it's multiplayer.
Woohoo!
Yes.
I'm looking forward.
Yeah, so what you're basically talking about here is like a consistency, because you are doing this crazy stuff, you have a crazy visuals, like cartoon stuff, but you also have a cartoonic way of playing the game.
Yeah.
So we have a realistic game, so our game is really slow-paced.
Realism
and
is
you really
hard
like
in
pick
VR.
up objects and look at the label of the ingredients in a beer can. That's what you can do in our game. We have like a super detail.
And that's
So,
challenging.
Yeah, that's very challenging. But the way is that then we need to be consistent. So if you can read a one beer bottle, you need to also read everything else in the game.
Yeah.
So it helps with the motion sickness and everything, that everything is consistent and it doesn't break the illusion. So whatever is that you commit, you need to commit fully into that and make sure that the world is some way consistent. It doesn't need to be realistic, it just needs to be consistent.
Yeah, that's the thing, because so when we worked on Ragnarok, that we were going for a semi-realism, which is very, very hard in many ways, because you really need to know how you optimize all your assets. So when we went over to the crazy sports games, we chose, like, we have different artists, like different 3D artists on all games. Like, we're a group of game jammers, and like we have 3 games in development at the same time. So like there's some overlap, but it's also just like kind of a crazy mess right now. I just hired my brother to actually take care of all that, so because I'm not a good manager. I admit it, I'm really good at being crazy, but not so good at managing people. But what we did choose was like to make sure that we have consistency in the art style, and we're going for low poly because like it's good for performance, and we don't have to worry too much about optimizing like the hell out of it. And there was someone actually a couple of weeks ago who said like, wow, you have like completely consistent art style across all 3 games. I'm like, no, it's different artists. I'm like, how did this happen? And it's different art directors also on the various games. But as Samuli is saying, like, it's very important that you're doing it consistently, because like we are tricking brains here. We're tricking the players, we're tricking ourselves, and if you don't do that consistently, like our brains are programmed to look for errors. Like that's how we work. So like everything that's gonna break illusion, you're gonna see that. And that's the most important part. That is why it's so hard to make something for VR, like where you choose to go for an art style of realism, because performance-wise, optimizing all assets, doing the correct lots, there can be no popping, no nothing, because you see everything in VR.
Yes, and you don't only see, you hear.
Yes.
That's something like I've seen so many people with the VR games, they forget about the audio, and audio needs to be up there with the visuals.
Yeah.
So when we made the realistic game, we also had to do a realistic visuals, and luckily at Mindfield Games we had a beautiful programmer who likes to program sounds.
Yep.
So we have specialized audio
Yeah,
and
it's
3D
so
stuff
important.
and echoes and stuff.
Super important.
So it's been really interesting to see, like now that the visuals are up there, we are getting these new SDKs for binaural audio and stuff,
Yep.
because that's the next step of making everything
because
really feel consistent.
Yeah, because actually the audio has gotten up to sort of beat now as well in general, because before we had to hack most of the SDKs to like make it work across platforms and whatnot, just like make it easy for yourself. That's the thing. Like, and that's what I'm saying. I know you guys are going for an amazing art style. I love the look of your game, but I know it's also like been very challenging.
Yeah, we've been making the game for 3 years.
Yeah.
And we are still not 100% finished.
Yeah.
The art is
I
finished,
know
but
where you are.
And but like my general advice when people are going into making VR games is, as I said previously, like go for the core mechanic, like get that right. And you can always add stuff after that, and like you can choose to make a sandboxy, story-driven, whatnot. But the core mechanic is just so important because people feel it instantly. You don't want to break that illusion, right? And when you have the core mechanic right, like our first game that we shipped was selfie tennis, and we didn't know anything about tennis. We had never played tennis. We knew nothing. And you teleport from one side of the court to the other. And we thought this was tennis, right? And then right before we launched, 3 of us, we went to play at a tennis court, and we realized we have nothing to do with tennis. And it was really bad. And then we shipped, and people were like, this doesn't feel like tennis, folks. And we decided, like, okay, we're going to do a physics update. A hard work, Horatio from my team, excellent coder. He just, like, worked his ass off to get the physics right. And actually, in order to get someone who really knew tennis, I spent an entire day in a tennis club in Copenhagen in 25 degrees, I recall, like, crazy spring day, with getting kicked and like, it set up the vibe outside in the sun, and kids were kicking their tripods and kicking me and whatnot, playing tennis. And then I ended up sort of charming a tennis coach to come to our office and help us out with the physics. So now, at least most people are saying.
I also remember Charlie, like on that rooftop, he was playing it. It wasn't improved back then because you just played tennis after that one. And he was a real tennis player, like a pro. He tried it. It was hilarious.
Yeah, in the beginning we just said, like, well, it isn't tennis, it's selfie tennis, right? But then we realized that it's going to break people's illusion of being in the game if it doesn't feel right. And that's why, like, suddenly it's way more about physics, controls, mechanics, and whatnot, because you can't, like, people feel it instantly if it's wrong.
But the traditional game mechanics is that about feeling? Like, VR is a lot about feeling. Yeah. So the core game mechanic doesn't sound so emotional, but it's all about the emotion. So it didn't feel like tennis. And then the core mechanic wasn't there.
That's the reason you have to have very sensitive people on the team sometimes. I can feel it.
Yeah, it's the feeling for the love of VR, I guess. Yeah, we really have to fight for that.
It's the Fight Club.
Yeah.
I think we're out of time, right? Sort of. Does anyone want to ask any questions? 1 minute left.
Yeah. Shoot us.
Question?
I can see half of you now.
Anyone? You want to fight?
We want to fight.
Should we get Chad on stage and fight?
He was supposed to tackle you in the end.
Yeah. Oh my God, there's light on you. That's great.
Did we put you on the spot, Chad?
Finally. Come over. Did you all know he was actually supposed to be here, but because he's scared of us that we will punch him on stage, he's not coming? Well,
it's called Fight Club for a reason.
You did attack him yesterday, remember?
Yeah, but still.
I think people are afraid of asking questions as well, so we are not going to punch
We're
you.
not going to punch you for that. You can really ask a question.
It's not happening, Sarah. Everyone is scared of you.
I knew it. I don't know why. They should be scared of you.
I know. But you're always the one who gets in trouble for everything.
Hey, that's a brave one.
Yay.
What's the craziest VR experience that you never want to play?
I never want to play. Whoa, I played something amazing yesterday, and I don't know whether the developers are here. I know it's a student team from one of the universities, and they're working with phobias. And the thing is, like, one of the experiences, so they said only 2 of their 4 demos are here because 2 of them are actually used in research, so they can't show it. But one was water, and I love being underwater, so I just loved it. And the other one was something with, like, knives and swords and needles and whatnot, and I was just, like, on the floor, like, getting everything in my head.
Oh my God, I
needles.
had that.
It was so amazing, and I assumed they thought I would be scared. And it was also, they weren't actually there when I played it. So, like, later I'm like, yeah, I love your stuff. And they were like, you guys are crazy. I just love being on the floor when I get the needles in my face.
Well, I was super scared of it. I rolled on the ground.
Oh, it was
like,
amazing. So I don't think anything is too crazy for me though, but I'm also
I actually have a little bit of scary thing because VR can actually, like, affect your psyche, and there's been a lot of, like, research that if you do some things in VR, they will adapt you into the real life.
It's amazing.
That's amazing. I have one positive example. I'm not afraid of heights anymore because I fly in VR so much.
Nice, that's good. Windlands
But
help,
there's
really
like there was this one study where they showed in VR a mirror image of yourself. But for one of the groups, they showed a fat guy, and for fun, like a very fit guy. And it actually affected the psyche and the overall happiness of their life.
Wow.
So I'm a little bit afraid when the marketers realize what they can do in VR.
A lot of people are asking me, like, whether kids should play VR, and I know Oculus has their warnings, but I haven't seen any, like, with ACC Vive. So all the kids in my family are playing, and they love spanking the monsters and self-attended, they tell me. I think it's good for them. I just think, like, every time I need to get my aggressions out, I go into self-attended, just hit. It's better than hitting other people.
I guess our time is up.
Yeah.
But there's another question.
Yeah? Yeah?
What? Have you what?
Yeah, actually, so a Vive Jam we did together in Copenhagen. That's on the VR Nerds website,
Yeah,
where you can see all the crazy
long
games.
article.
Yeah, you wrote
First
it.
is German, and then the second half is English. So like, there's an English version below.
And there's a lot, like actually one of the games that we were working on in VRUnicorns was initiated there by two of my friends, so now they joined our crazy
Yeah,
jamming
it's
situation.
like 15 games. I also did videos of all of
Yeah,
them. Like
the
that
videos.
was
Actually, I'm in the videos, right?
Yeah, you're in all of the videos, just like jumping around.
Doing my
all
thing.
by myself. Okay, yeah. Maybe
We should get more beer.
Yeah. More beer.
I'm feeling better now.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Cheers. Skål.
Skål.